welcome to Cooking with Recreation. I'm your host, Miss Amanda, and today we're going to make snowball cookies. Let's go over our ingredients. We're going to need 2 cups of all-purpose flour, 3/4 cup of powdered sugar. We're going to need about 1/2 teaspoon of salt. We're going to need 1 cup or 2 sticks of unsalted butter. Do not substitute with margarine. This recipe usually calls for 1 cup of chopped nuts, but today we're going to use 1/2 cup of chocolate chips and 1/2 cup of pecans. We're also going to use our rolling pin today, and this is a sifter. We're going to sift our flour and sift our sugar. Also, don't forget the vanilla. That's what adds the flavor. All right, let's get this stuff set up, and we'll start working on our cookies. So we're ready to get started. First of all, I did preheat the oven to 350 degrees. So if our kids are working on these alone, make sure we have permission from a grown-up to use our oven first. For the super little ones, we want to make sure we have a grown-up turn it on and take our cookies in and out of the oven for us. But other than that, you should be able to do this with very minimal help. We're going to start with 3/4 cup of sugar, and I'm going to put this in a sifter. And the sifter has a special screen inside, so when I put the sugar in there and I squeeze this little handle, it comes out real soft, just like that. And that helps to keep it from being lumpy and bumpy. And if you don't have one of these at home, that's fine. You can just throw your sugar in there without using it. Just want to take a fork maybe and break it up, because sometimes you get little lumpy guys just like that, which is fine. It can still be used. It just needs broken up. So I want to make sure we get all of our sugar in there. There we go. It seems like it's going to keep going forever, but that's okay. The next thing we're going to do is add our butter. So the butter I left sitting on the counter so that it would be nice and soft. If you see, I can kind of squish it a little bit. It hasn't been refrigerated, and we don't want to melt it either. So you can't put the butter in the microwave for this recipe, otherwise you'll have snow flats instead of snowballs. So room temperature butter, and 2 sticks is the equivalent of 1 cup. Add that in there, and then we're going to get our electric mixer, and we're going to start on a low speed so everything doesn't fly everywhere. And we need to cream our butter and our sugar together. The taller the bowl you use, the less mess you'll make. So if you're worried about a big mess, make sure you use a nice big bowl. Miss Amanda's getting a little messy today, but that's okay, as long as I clean it all up. That's part of the fun of baking, is making a little mess. Alright, you can see our butter is starting to break up and it's turning into chunks, but we're going to keep mixing until it's all nice and creamy together. This takes just a couple of minutes to get it going. If you have a stand mixer at home, that makes it so much easier to do. You just put the butter and the sugar in there and turn it on and let it go by itself. But we have a hand mixer, and it'll work. So I'm going to grab a spatula and kind of press this together a little bit. Got my spatula right here. And we're just giving this a little smushy smush. I want to make sure that butter and that sugar is incorporated really well together. And I'm going to turn my mixer back on. Get that off the side. Always start on low and then turn it up high. There we go. Now it's a nice even consistency. And we've got all that butter and sugar goodness stuck in the wheels of our blade. We're just going to turn our blade down and pull it up the side so we get that butter and sugar out of the ends as much as we can. And that's okay that that sits in there because we're going to do some more mixing. All right, so the next thing we need to add is 1 tablespoon of vanilla. You can use imitation vanilla or you can use pure vanilla extract. Either one works. If you like the taste of almond, you can use almond extract instead. But I'm going to use about a tablespoon of that. Make sure we put the lid back on so we don't spill it. Okay, and we're going to give that a little stir. Whoop. Trying to run away from me, are you? Okay, so we're going to take our sifter again, and we are going to use 2 cups of all-purpose flour. And I'm going to add that in here. There we go. And again, we are sifting our flour in there so we don't get all those lumps and bumps. And I'm probably going to put about half of this flour in, and then I'm going to turn my mixer back on and mix that up, and then I'll add the rest. Let's sit that right there so we don't spill all over the table. Make sure we go up on the sides and get all of that butter off the sides and bring it down into the bowl. All right. And I'm going to take my spatula again, so if you guys can see, it's kind of stuck up here on the edges. I'm just going to take my spatula and kind of scoop all of that around and down in there. Tap it back in the bowl. And then we're going to add the rest of our flour. Flour, flour, flour. It's forever. Look, it's snowing. Something else you can use instead of a sifter is also like a netted strainer. You can put your flour in there and just kind of tap it on the side of your bowl, and that'll help get the lumps out of the flour. All right, we're going to give this another mix. So your dough should look, at this point, very crumbly. And that is what it's supposed to look like. It shouldn't be super wet or super sticky. If it is, your butter was probably too soft, which means you warmed it up. And in that case, you're just going to have to put it in the refrigerator so it'll stiffen up a little bit. All right, so we've got that all mixed in there. Let me get these butter wrappers out of the way. And I'm just going to sit this guy to the side. And in here, I have about a half a cup of pecans, the whole pecans. You can use walnuts or almonds or any other kind of nuts that you like. And, whoop, my bag is a little bit broken here. That's okay. We want to get the air out of that bag. And then I'm going to take my rolling pin and I'm going to crush my pecans. Don't have a rolling pin, you can use the bottom of a soup can or a meat mallet or one of your mom's high heel shoes. You know, that works too. We don't want to turn it into dust, but we do want to get them into nice broken up pieces, nice chunks. Almost done. Well, it wasn't that loud and fun. So you get all your holiday aggression out on your cookie making there. You know, your little brother make you mad. Just go in the kitchen and make some cookies. It'll make you feel better. All right, so after we've crushed those, I'm going to add them, if I can get them open again. It wouldn't be difficult, that's okay. So we're gonna add those in there. So that's about a half a cup of pecans. And then we're gonna add about a half a cup of chocolate chips. All right. And yes, I did wash my hands before I started making cookies, so please make sure that your hands are clean before you start. And we forgot one other ingredient, but that's okay, we can add it now. We need about a half a teaspoon of salt. And I know you're like, ew, salt in my cookies, but no, you gotta trust me, it brings out the flavor. I'm not gonna lie to you. All right, a little bit of salt in there. All right, so now with my hands, I'm gonna come in here and mix all this together till it forms a nice round dough ball. Get in there, Mr. Pecan. We're mixing up all those chocolate chips and we're mixing up all those pecans and we're getting it all squished together so we can have super yummy cookies. All right, so once I feel like everything is all nice and mixed together, I'm gonna kind of come over here and smoosh it into a nice ball. Now, if you are worried about your snowball cookies being super round, you can put your dough in the refrigerator for about an hour. It'll help stiffen it up a little bit, especially if your butter was too soft or if you mixed it by hand too long, because remember you're adding heat to it by mixing it by hand. It is not necessary. And the worst thing that could happen by not refrigerating your dough is that your cookies will come out a little flatter. All right, so we got that already. And I'm going to step over and grab my cookie sheet and our parchment paper. So now that we've got our dough all ready to go, we're going to grab a cookie sheet. I like this flat one down here at the bottom, and it's got a little lip up here. And this is parchment paper. You can do this without parchment paper. Sometimes they'll stick or they'll kind of brown a lot on the bottom, but I think they look nicer when you use parchment paper. These are pre-cut, not pre-cooked, silly, pre-cut sheets. It also comes in a long roll like you would get with your aluminum foil, but don't use wax paper. All right, now we're gonna get our dough over here. We're gonna pinch some off and we're gonna make about 1 inch size balls. And we're going to fill up our whole cookie sheet. And this recipe should make between 24 to 30 cookies, depending on the size that you make them. If you want 2 bites, then make them a little bit bigger. If you want 1 bite, then make them smaller. And the important thing here is to make sure that they're all pretty much the same size, because if they're all big ones and little ones and whatnot, they will burn in the oven. Some of them will burn and some of them won't cook all the way. All right, guys, so now that we've gotten our cookie sheet full, we've got the last one on there. We want to make sure that they're all about the same size so that they don't undercook or overcook. We don't want any burnt cookies, and we don't want these ones to be super soft. We're going to head over to the oven. Remember, we preheated earlier at about 350 degrees. And they're going to cook for about 15 minutes. Around minute 13 or so, I would start checking the bottoms of them. We're going to look for like a golden brown on the bottom, and they should be a little stiff to the touch. When we come back, we will be adding our powdered sugar and getting ready to enjoy a tasty treat.
The need for blood is constant, and sometimes that need becomes critical. From accident victims and cancer patients to premature babies and those with blood disorders, hospital patients rely on all of us to make sure that blood is on the shelves and ready to help. That's why the American Red Cross needs you. Make an appointment to give blood today by calling 1-800-RED-CROSS or visit redcrossblood.org. Your one blood donation can help save up to 3 lives.
During the COVID-19 pandemic, if you find yourself in need of food, help is just a phone call away. The Greater Cleveland Food Bank is here for you. Call their help center at 216-738-2067 or visit their website at greaterclevelandfoodbank.org for more information.
Alright, so now that our cookies have cooled, we've added them to our tin, which was already lined with a little bit of powdered sugar. Added some more on top. And we're going to take our lid and give them a good shake. There we go. We've got Snowball Cookies. Thanks so much for joining us with Cooking with Recreation. I'm your host, Miss Amanda. Have a great day.